Picture this, you're scrolling Zillow at 10 o'clock at night. You find a 3-bedroom house in South Carolina for $250,000. Big yard, nice porch, 40 minutes from the beach, and you think, finally, I found it. Then you move there, and you realize that price made sense. It made sense because you didn't do your homework. South Carolina is genuinely one of the best states in the country right now for people looking to relocate. The weather is mild. The coast is world-class. The cost of living is well below what you'd pay in the Northeast or on the West Coast. And there are some incredible communities here, places that are growing, thriving, and genuinely welcoming to people from outside. But this state also has a darker side that nobody talks about. And if you're planning a move here in 2026, you need to hear it. I'm not going to give you a brochure. I'm going to give you the actual picture. 10 South Carolina towns where the data, the crime stats, and the on-the-ground reality should give any serious buyer serious pause. Dillon sits in the northeastern corner of South Carolina, right off I-95, about 45 minutes from Myrtle Beach, population around 6,000. And if you're driving through on the interstate, you've probably seen the signs for South of the Border, that massive, kitschy roadside attraction just outside of town. It's basically the most famous thing in the area, but here's what those signs don't tell you. According to Area Vibes, Dillon has the highest violent crime rate in the entire state of South Carolina, coming in at 2,372 violent crimes per 100,000 people. That is 443% higher than the South Carolina state average. Let that land, not just above average. 443% above the state average, in a state that already ranks among the worst in the country for violent crime. The data from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division confirms it. Dillon has consistently appeared at or near the top of statewide crime rankings for years. We're talking about aggravated assaults, robberies, and gang-related activity in a town of 6,000 people. The police department has been stretched thin trying to keep up, and residents have been vocal on local forums about feeling unsafe in certain parts of the city. The economy tells the same story. Unemployment is elevated. Poverty is a persistent problem. When the industries that once supported small rural towns in this part of the state, textiles, tobacco, started declining, Dillon never fully found a replacement. What you're left with is a town that's economically stagnant and statistically one of the most dangerous communities in a very large state. There's also very little infrastructure for a newcomer, limited healthcare options, schools that underperform the state average, a downtown that has seen better days. Now, is Dillon the worst town on this list? Not in every category, but leading the state in violent crime per capita is not a stat you can explain away. If you're coming to South Carolina looking for a fresh start, Dillon is one of the last places you should be looking. Marion is about 30 miles west of Myrtle Beach, in the northeastern part of the state, population just over 6,000. And this is a town that sounds like exactly the kind of southern small town people romanticize about. Historic courthouse, deep roots, a name tied to a Revolutionary War general, Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. The history is real. The current reality is not as poetic. The overall crime rate in Marion is 177% higher than the South Carolina average. According to multiple analyses pulling from FBI data, property crime is especially brutal here. Marion ranked third in the entire state for property crime rate at 345 incidents per 10,000 residents, based on the most recent SLED report. Marion is a place where your car, your garage, your home, all of it is at risk at a rate that outpaces the vast majority of communities in the Southeast. But crime is only part of the problem. The economy has been hollowing out for decades. Poverty sits at 30.7%, nearly a third of the population. The median household income is around $28,551, which is dramatically below both the state and national averages. Job options are extremely limited. The remote location makes it hard to access outside economic opportunities without a long commute. Only 85% of adults have at least a high school diploma. That's below the state average, and it reflects a broader educational infrastructure that hasn't served this community well. Schools are below state averages in performance metrics. The pitch for Marion tends to be the price. You can buy a house here cheaply. And yes, that's true. But cheap housing in a town with a 30% poverty rate, elevated property crime, limited jobs, and no real path to economic revival isn't a deal. It's a mirror of the town's circumstances. The low price is telling you something. Orangeburg is about 40 miles south of Columbia, roughly in the middle of the state. Population around 13,000. And here's the thing about Orangeburg. It has two historically black universities. South Carolina State University and Claflin University are both here. That's a meaningful cultural and educational anchor. And there's a downtown with some genuine character and history. But Orangeburg also has the distinction of being ranked #1 in the entire state for violent crime rate, according to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division's 2023 report. That's based on 143 violent crimes per 10,000 residents. Crime index scores from Neighborhood Scout show that 100% of communities in South Carolina are safer than Orangeburg. Every single one. The FBI's data shows that violent crime here, rape, murder, aggravated assault, armed robbery, runs at levels that are 241% above the national average. Your chance of being a victim of property crime in Orangeburg is 1 in 17. The economic numbers are just as stark. Unemployment sits around 14%. The poverty rate is 29%. Median household income is $28,587. Which is well below the national average. More than 20% of households bring in less than $10,000 per year. Healthcare access is limited. The job market outside of the university ecosystem and local government is thin. And for someone moving here from outside the state, the infrastructure to support comfortable daily life just isn't what you'd expect for a city of this size. Now, Orangeburg has potential. The university presence is real. There have been efforts at downtown revitalization, and it would be wrong to pretend nothing good is happening here. But the crime stats are not a footnote. They're the dominant reality for thousands of residents every day. Moving to Orangeburg without understanding that is moving blind. Chester is in the upstate region of South Carolina, about 40 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina. Population just over 5,000. And this is one of those towns where the pitch is obvious. You're within commuting distance of one of the fastest growing metro areas in the entire Southeast. Charlotte is right there. The median home price in Chester is a fraction of what you'd pay in the Charlotte suburbs. Here's the problem. Chester has a violent crime rate that is 256% higher than the South Carolina average. According to Area Vibes data, that translates to 1,554 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. In a town of 5,000 people, those numbers are alarming. We're talking robbery, assault, rape, all running at levels that would make this city statistically dangerous by any national benchmark. If you're thinking you can just commute to Charlotte and live cheaply in Chester, people have tried that math, but you need to factor in what daily life actually looks like on the ground. The downtown is economically depressed. Businesses have struggled to stay open as the town's economic base has eroded. Schools are underfunded and underperform the state average. Chester County has one of the highest poverty rates in the upstate. The mill economy that once anchored this community is gone, and nothing has replaced it at scale. What remains is a beautiful old courthouse square surrounded by a struggling economy and an elevated crime environment. Is Chester worth watching? Maybe in the future, as Charlotte's orbit expands further south. But in 2026, moving to Chester, banking on that spillover effect, is speculative. The current numbers don't support the trade-off. This is one that might not be on your radar at all. Allendale is a small town in the southwestern part of South Carolina, in the Low Country, not far from the Georgia border. Population around 2,500, and it is genuinely one of the most economically distressed communities in the entire United States, not just South Carolina. The poverty rate in Allendale, as of 2023 data, is 42.8%, nearly half of the population. The median household income is $25,250. Allendale County consistently ranks as the poorest county in the state, with the lowest population of any county in South Carolina, and that population is still declining, dropping by more than 7% since 2010, according to census estimates. When it comes to violent crime, Allendale County ranks second worst in the state, with a violent crime rate of 122 per 10,000 residents. SafeHome.org notes that violent crimes in Allendale increased 69% in a single recent year. a 1 in 50 chance of being a victim of violent crime in the nearby community of Allendale, just 20 miles south, underscores how dangerous this entire corridor is. Healthcare is critical access level, meaning there's one small hospital nearby that handles emergencies. But for anything specialized, you're driving a very long way. There are almost no job options beyond government employment and a small healthcare sector. Internet access is limited in rural parts of the county. Why would anyone consider moving here? Sometimes you'll see properties listed at extraordinarily low prices, homes on large lots for figures that seem impossible. And that price is telling you exactly what the town has been trying to say for decades. People are leaving, the infrastructure is struggling, and the economic and crime challenges here are deeply entrenched, not the kind of thing that resolves in a year or two. Allendale is a community with a lot of history and a lot of people who genuinely care about it. But if you're moving to South Carolina for opportunity, stability, or quality of life, Allendale is near the bottom of any honest list. Union is in the upstate, about an hour west of Charlotte and 30 miles west of Spartanburg. Population around 7,800. And here's a name that actually does carry a notorious reputation in South Carolina, though not for the right reasons. By total crime rate, Union is statistically the most dangerous city in South Carolina. Neighborhood Scout puts the crime rate at 92 crimes per 1,000 residents. That's not a typo. 99% of South Carolina communities have a lower crime rate than Union. The overall crime rate of 92.45 per 1,000 residents makes this one of the highest crime rate small cities in the country, not just the state. For property crime specifically, Union is the worst in the entire state. Your chance of being a victim of property crime in Union is 1 in 12. Car theft is a particular problem. Union ranks among the highest nationally for motor vehicle thefts on a per capita basis. People on local forums have talked for years about cars being broken into regularly, thefts from homes, and a general atmosphere of insecurity in certain neighborhoods. The economy compounds everything. Union's textile mills, which were once the backbone of the local economy, have been closed for years. There's never been a real industrial replacement. Poverty is high, job options are limited, and the downtown has been hollowing out for decades. There's one thing Union is genuinely known for historically that's darker than anything on a crime chart. It's where Susan Smith lived, where in 1994 she drove her car into John D. Long Lake and drowned her 2 young sons in one of the most shocking cases in American history. That tragedy is not what defines the town, but it's part of why Union gets attention and why the name carries weight in a way most small SC towns don't. If you're relocating to the upstate and budget is a primary concern, there are better options than Union. The crime to price trade-off here is one of the worst in the state. Florence is the largest city in the PD region of South Carolina, right off I-95 in the northeastern part of the state. Population around 41,000. This is one that trips a lot of people up because Florence actually has some things going for it. There's a hospital system. McLeod Regional Medical Center is a real regional anchor. There's a minor league baseball team, Biggie Desas. There are some decent restaurants and a growing downtown. And Florence is right on I-95. For people who need to commute up and down the East Coast or want to be able to get to Myrtle Beach or Columbia quickly, the location looks solid on a map. But let's look at the actual data. Florence ranks in the 9th percentile for safety, meaning 91% of U.S. cities are safer. The crime rate is 49.98 per 1,000 residents, earning a D- grade from Crime Grade. Florence is safer than only 13% of South Carolina communities, according to Neighborhood Scout. The violent crime rate is 210% above the national average. The most dangerous areas in Florence are concentrated in central neighborhoods, where your chance of being a victim of crime can be as high as 1 in 7. The southwestern part of the city is genuinely safer, with odds closer to 1 in 33. That divide matters enormously. And if you're moving to Florence, neighborhood selection is everything. The poverty rate sits at 18%. Nearly 30% of children in Florence County live in poverty. Median property values in the county are significantly below national averages. Florence is not without hope. The medical sector is a genuine economic engine. There's some investment happening, but the crime reality here is severe enough that we can't recommend it for people who haven't done deep research into specific neighborhoods. And for families especially, the schools and the safety profile in many parts of the city are real concerns. Hartsville is in Darlington County, about 30 miles north of Florence. population around 7,500. And this one is a sneaky trap. Hartsville has Coker University, a private liberal arts school. It's got a decent main street with some restaurants and shops. It has a genuinely nice botanical garden, Kalmia Gardens, that people actually go out of their way to visit. On the surface, this feels like a pleasant, small southern college town. It is the third most dangerous city in South Carolina. According to Area Vibes, Hartsville's violent crime rate is 1,746 per 100,000 residents, 300% higher than the South Carolina average. That translates to approximately 4.78 violent crimes every single day in a city of 7,500 people. RoadSnack's 2025 analysis confirms it holds the third highest violent crime rate in the state. Property crime is also well above average. Kalmia Gardens gets 10 thefts a week in the surrounding area. That's a local statistic that longtime residents talk about openly. Here's what makes Hartsville confusing as a case. The university is real, and there are parts of town that genuinely function well, but the crime data is not a rounding error. It reflects deep economic stress in this community. Darlington County has struggled with poverty and declining employment for years. The paper mill industry that once supported this region has contracted significantly. The job market for people not connected to Coker or the remaining industrial employers is genuinely thin. If you're moving to the PD region, Hartsville's low home prices are going to catch your eye. But the gap between how the town presents itself and what the crime data says is one of the biggest mismatches on this entire list. Go in with your eyes open. Number 2, and this one I know is going to get some pushback in the comments, Myrtle Beach. I can already hear it. Myrtle Beach is a great place to live. You're just looking at tourist crime. Things are getting better. And I want to be fair here. There is something real in those objections. The Myrtle Beach Police Department has legitimately reduced Part 1 crimes by nearly 50% since 2015. The department's own stats confirmed in April 2025 by the police chief herself. That is real work and real progress. But here's what the progress hasn't caught up to yet. As of the most recent FBI data covering 2024, Myrtle Beach has a total crime rate that is 231% higher than the national average. The violent crime rate is 1,013 per 100,000 people, 173% above the national average. The property crime rate is 6,698 per 100,000, placing it in the worst 10% of all American cities. Within South Carolina, more than 95% of communities have a lower crime rate than Myrtle Beach. Your chance of being a victim of property crime in Myrtle Beach is 1 in 17. Your chance of becoming a victim of violent crime is 1 in 99. Now here's the nuance that I think people miss. Myrtle Beach has 40,000 permanent residents, but functions as a major tourist destination serving millions of visitors per year. Crime stats measure crime per resident, not per the total number of people who are actually there at any given moment. That inflates the numbers to some extent. Areas like Broadway at the beach and the tourism corridors have concentrations of opportunistic crime that affect visitors and residents alike. But you need to think about what that actually means for daily life if you're a resident. You're living in an environment where property crime is rampant. Car break-ins are a constant topic in local Facebook groups. Motor vehicle theft is among the highest in the nation per capita. And while the beach is a real quality of life advantage, the trade-offs in safety and the sheer seasonal chaos of a tourist economy make Myrtle Beach a much more difficult place to actually live than the Instagram version suggests. If you're considering Myrtle Beach, research specific neighborhoods carefully. Carolina Forest, about 10 to 15 minutes inland, has a meaningfully better safety profile. The gated communities in Grande Dunes are another world entirely. But Myrtle Beach, as a broad destination for relocation, without understanding the crime geography, is a decision a lot of people have made and later regretted. Wait, hear me out, because I know what you're thinking. Columbia is the state capital. It has the University of South Carolina. It has Fort Jackson, one of the largest Army bases in the country. There's a food scene, there's nightlife, there are hospitals, employers, cultural institutions. The Congaree National Park is nearby. By most traditional measures, Columbia should not be on a list like this. But Columbia is on this list because it's the place that gets recommended to out-of-state movers more than anywhere else in South Carolina, often without honest context about what what large swaths of the city actually look like day to day. The crime rate in Columbia is 5,228 per 100,000 people, 123% higher than the national average. According to Property Club's analysis, the violent crime rate runs well above state averages, with robbery and aggravated assault being the most common offenses. Columbia ranks in the top tier nationally for certain categories of crime relative to its population. Crime grade gives parts of central Columbia failing grades. In the downtown area, 5 Points Entertainment District, and certain neighborhoods near Rosewood and Lower Main Street have documented persistent crime problems that local news covers regularly. But the bigger trap for newcomers is neighborhood selection. Columbia is a tale of two cities. Move into the right zip code, Forest Acres, Shandon, Irmo, the growing Casey corridor, and your experience is dramatically different from moving into a neighborhood that Zillow flagged as affordable without giving you context for why. The problem is that people moving to Columbia from out of state often don't know the difference. They see a house for $230,000 within 10 minutes of downtown, and they buy it. Then they realize it's in a pocket of the city where property crime is constant, where their car gets broken into twice in 6 months, and where the neighborhood environment is nothing like what the listing photos suggested. The poverty rate in Columbia is elevated. Certain school zones are significantly underfunded. The city's homeless population has grown visibly in recent years, concentrated in the downtown core, which affects the street-level experience in ways that don't show up in Zillow listings. Columbia is a city with real potential and real advantages. If you're strategic about where you live within the metro, and you should absolutely look at the greater Columbia area, including suburbs like Lexington and Irmo, which are consistently ranked among the safest communities in the state, this can be a great place to build a life. But Columbia proper, without doing serious neighborhood-level research, is the #1 place in South Carolina where out-of-state movers get burned. The gap between the headline, state capital, university town, affordable, and the street-level reality in many parts of the city is exactly the kind of trap this channel exists to help you avoid. 10 cities, some are statistically dangerous by any national measure, some are economically hollowed out and in ways that won't be visible until you're already living there. And one, the last one, is dangerous specifically because it looks so good on paper. South Carolina has some genuinely exceptional places to live in 2026. The state is growing fast for a reason, but that growth also brings pressure, and not every community is ready for it. And some communities have been struggling for decades, and no amount of low listing prices changes that underlying reality. Do your research, not just on Zillow. Drive through at night. Check the crime maps by zip code. Both Crime Grade and Neighborhood Scout have free tools that give you neighborhood-level data. Talk to people who actually live there, not just people who moved there 6 months ago and haven't learned what they moved into yet. If you want to know which South Carolina towns are actually worth moving to, the ones that are growing, safe, and underrated, drop that in the comments. That's the video I'm making next.